Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you are. Kamalanellen here, creator of the art and science of working in for skill in life and peak performance. This is a story. First of all, I read just a couple of days ago that on July 16th, the NCAA agreed to pay a $92 million settlement in a class action lawsuit brought by former student athletes who claimed schools failed to protect them from repeated concussions and eventual brain injuries, and how teams pressured athletes to play despite symptoms. In many cases, medical advice was either ignored or not available. Many players say the same culture still exists. I'm not an athlete in the sports sense, but I was a professional dancer and I do teach yoga. I've had 3 concussions. The first one left me in a dark room for a week. I didn't have any support. But there is a solution. After the second concussion, which was 10 years later, the ENT said to me, "You will need to pay attention to any symptoms you have for the rest of your life." This concussion left me with a hairline fracture of the skull, a deviated septum, and my right eye wandered off. A week after the hit, I was supposed to see my son in Philadelphia. It was parents' weekend, and I was in a shop to buy a warm sweater. So I pulled a turtleneck over my head to try on, and I had a severe headache after that. Well, as the evening went on, it became so debilitating, and I was living alone, that I called a yoga student to take me to the ER. They admitted me for scans and some other testing. Shortly after that stay, I was readmitted to the ER because I kept throwing up the medication that was for the pain. No matter what therapy I tried over 11 years, the symptoms persisted and worsened, keeping me from work and relationships. At one point, I felt like I'd been locked inside of a coffin. I thought I was going crazy. I isolated and I cried a lot. And I prayed a lot over those years. Did you ever feel your prayers just didn't count? That God put them in the circular file? I had given up. Having prayed and having seen 15 different healers and therapists, I collapsed in a heap of despair. I had to accept the searing pain on the top of my skull, the emotional roller coasters. I would see phantoms flying in my room during the night. I couldn't read a book. My right eye persisted in wandering off. My balance was maybe 75%, so I would either fall backwards or off to the right when I was on one leg in a yoga posture. I couldn't stop crying still. I could not be around people, so I quit teaching. There were persistent nightmares, sleeplessness, and always those debilitating headaches. I couldn't wear my glasses. I would lose it with a customer service rep over a simple question. Having withdrawn into my shell, I finally just stayed there. I quit living. My life was a nightmare. God surely did not care about me. It was during the 11th year that I was attempting to continue my work and promoting myself as a speaker. I was to give a short presentation at a seminar in Los Angeles for athletes, specifically NFL and aspiring NFL players. I didn't realize it was focused on concussions. I just wanted to promote my business. After I got there and I realized it was a seminar on concussions, I first thought I was a fish out of water, and then it dawned on me that I had had 2 traumatic brain injuries and a lot of times with severe PTSD during my life from various traumas. I was just like these athletes. So because I was taking medication for the headaches, I would feel slightly woozy, but I did practice my presentation intensively before I came. Still, let's face it, my brain wasn't healed. And I was horrified when shortly after I began the presentation, my mind went blank. I forgot what I was going to say. So I scrambled to look at my notes, and then I started to ad lib in a way that wasn't at all about what I planned to talk about. I started to talk about my concussions as a way to save face. Well, I finally got back on track and finished the presentation. I sat back down, totally deflated. You see, I was sitting next to one of the biggest sports agents in the industry. After the panel, I returned to my seat in the audience. I hung my head because the tears were sprouting out of my eyes. I was a failure, and I knew it was because of the state of my head. I kept fighting back those ongoing tears, and I tried to recoup a shred of dignity. There was none. Then Dr. Kraft got up and started to speak about an experimental approach to healing concussions. It was going on in Denver with military people. No pills, no cutting, no numbing, no drugs, no endless therapy sessions. That was for me. He explained the Denver study and that the first 10 patients had recovered so much that they all went back to work. I had to get into this study. So when the panel was over, I practically ran up to him, tears still spilling out of my eyes, and I told him my story. Obviously, I wasn't in the NFL or the military, but I was in terrible distress over my situation. I was begging him. A year later, he sent me a questionnaire, and I was in. I was just shaved my head, so I went to the barber. I actually had to go back twice because it wasn't close enough to the scalp the first time. I phoned my son to let him know, and he blew up. He said, "Who is this guy? He's a quack. I'm going to kill him." I started to cry again as I explained that I couldn't stop crying and I couldn't function. So it was either this or die. I couldn't take it anymore. My internal dialogue after that was, what if it's a lobotomy? Don't go. Am I crazy? Don't they do laser to prevent hair growth? Before the sessions were to begin, I knelt at my meditation altar and offered a final week of daily prayers. Please let me know in a tangible way whether I should not do the treatment. And if I should go ahead, please, please be there with me to help with the procedures. I arrived at the doctor's office for my first treatment. Lying on a table in an examining room, his assistant came to stand nearby. They drew a line around my forehead for the laser to stay within. The nurse had a small handheld fan purchased at Walmart. Turns out that was to keep the skin from being overheated during the treatment. And they put these metal eye protectors on me. I got a huge lump in my throat at that point. What if my son is right and I lose my ability to think? It turns out Nurse Kevin would use the fan, of course, to keep my skin cool, but he was also a moral support. We chatted as the procedure went on, and I learned he had met my spiritual master and waxed superlatives at how lucky I was to have the teacher. Now both of my prayers were clearly answered. I could relax into the treatment. After each week, with 2 sessions a week on some weeks, and there were 15 sessions in total, I would find some shift that actually blew me away in some way. After the very first 15-minute session, I went home and slept in the deepest, most refreshing nap. The second week, I felt I had been unplugged from the electric socket that had frayed my nervous system. The third week, no more head pain. 4th week, I was no longer reacting, but thinking logically with the customer service rep on the phone. And the last week, well, I woke up the morning after that and realized I am not depressed anymore. Now I was crying out of relief. I was calm, interacting with others. I wanted to go out of my house and be with people. I was sleeping soundly, and I started teaching again with enthusiasm. I even offered a workshop. The doctor sent me a questionnaire every week for a year to see how I was progressing, and I was told the healing would continue to unfold for a long time, and it would deepen and expand. It did. So about those prayers to God, simply put them in the inbox, waiting to be answered. And the story ends here. You can reach me at www.kamalanellen.com. And if you want to find out more about the art and science of working in, please do get in touch. Have a great day.